Greetings from eMed News and HeartCare Foundation of India. The topic we are discussing today is liver transplant. Who can donate? 20,000 liver transplants are needed in India alone, and only 700 people are lucky to get it. There's a huge requirement of liver. What can be done? What is the problem? Why cadaveric transplant in India is not taking place? We'll try to answer a few of the questions. We have with us Dr. Neelam Mohan. She is a pediatric gastroenterologist and she's a director hepatology and a transplant pediatrics group in Medanta, the MedCity. Welcome, Dr. Neelam.
Thank you so much.
So what we are trying to talk about is it's unfortunate. On one side you can say, oh my God, we do 700 liver transplant. But if you go to the other way around, we say that only 700. Therefore, we need to know why the number of transplant is not increasing in the country.
Well, I think the last few years have been very good if you look at it optimistically. When we started transplants, say, nearly a decade back, things were very slow. There were a lot of tumbles. The confidence of the people was not there. The infrastructure was not there, etc. But over the years, you can see that there are amazing skills now available in the country. There are very good infrastructure that is available, and more centers are developing. Yes, you might say that unfortunately still the public sectors are yet to take off, and it is more in the private sectors that this is taken off. But if I look at the success story of the last couple of years, I would be very optimistic, because we at Medanta last year did 300 liver transplants in one center, and now there are more than 10 centers to 12 centers in the country. And I'm sure that the speed with which it is doing very well. But of course, you have to realize it's a very expensive, thing that you're talking about, and it is not possible for us to reach that huge numbers, but I'm sure they will be good
I'll take it the other way around. That means everybody who can afford is getting liver transplant.
The truth is yes.
That means only those people who cannot afford are not getting it done.
The truth is yes.
Or there are people who are still not getting it done. They are aware because the physicians and the centers are not aware about it.
Well, that part has relatively decreased over the last couple of years. This lack of awareness was a major hurdle few years back. But now, to quite an extent, I mean, it would be true in probably in some, say, remote areas and small city, very small places, that you would have lack of awareness, and by the time they refer a patient, it would be too late. You would see nowadays this instance is more in children rather than in adults. In children, what happens is by the time the physician refers or the pediatrician refers, is too late, and the patient is really not fit for transplant. So this is still a hurdle when it comes to referring, and maybe one of the key messages that you would be able to deliver is an early referral to a transplant, because the success depends on the fitness of the patient too. So you cannot have a patient who's totally crumpled before you want to.
Every time a donor is available?
No, that is, so among the various hurdles that we talk about, one is who can, afford it, and because it's not so much available in the public sector, in the sectors, but it's not a criticism. I would think that if you have to realize that if you could save with the same money around 10,000 people who are suffering from malaria or tuberculosis, I'm sure even if I was in the government, I would like to utilize that money more judiciously into that, rather than that's a different ethical issues which we may not talk about, but it is justified because the amount of money that is required in saving one life, the same could be spent in saving huge number of lives and getting into the basic water hygiene and infection hygiene, etc., talking about malaria, dengue, etc. And the second is when you need a liver transplant, the second hurdle is that where do you get the liver from? So when you talk about where you get the liver from, there are two places that you can get the liver. The first is a cadaveric. And what do you mean by a cadaveric? A person who is brain dead. Death is defined in two ways. One is your heart,
so
cardiac death.
Heart living, brain dead person.
Correct.
On ventilator is
correct. So a brain dead person is usually either road track accidents, or the people who are admitted in the hospital and their heart is yet beating, but the brainstem function and the midbrain functions are lost. So that person is 100% dead. That person's liver can be donated. This is the major hurdle in India. There is no concept about cadaveric donation.
So we had 1994 Act.
Yes.
There came amendment in 2004. Then there came amendments in 2011.
Yes.
Nothing happened to the cadaveric transplant.
Well, I would still say it's quite a disgrace because it's only 1% of the total transplants that we are doing in the country is cadaveric. And there are a couple of states which have done very well in the cadaveric transplant. We have to take experience from Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu state has done, health is quite a lot of it as a state affair. So Tamil Nadu was very good in setting up example and doing quite a lot of cadaveric transplants. And people like you can take up this project very nicely. And I heard about your Tattvamasi, where even I got involved with you, where we're talking about spreading this information about cadaveric donation and all. And I'm sure, I think we can be optimistic over the next half a decade. We should increase this awareness in a country that you don't need to take your organs back up. God doesn't need them. You need them more in the...
So in a cadaveric donation, one liver can be used for how many people?
Two.
So that means one cadaveric donation, you can save 2 people's life.
Exactly.
And you will need 2 transplant teams at the same time. And
Right.
if you don't have, then what we do?
Well, it's majority of the time what happens is when you take the liver into 2, you give the right side to the adult and the left side to a child. And when you take out the liver has to be put into the new body within preferably 12 to 18 hours. That has to be put. So you can either share an organ between 2 centers if you don't have. So
or you need to have 2 teams.
Or you need to have 2 teams. Like, I mean, I'm fortunate. I'm in a center like Medanta where we have, say, around 9 surgical consultants. So it's very easy for us to do even 3 transplants we did recently and made a world record. But they were interlinked surgery. It's not that we wanted to make a record. They were interlinked surgery. So you can end up having that many team, but you could do that.
Now we come back to the live donor. So live donor has to be a relation as per the law?
Absolutely. The live donor is, how can a living donor person donate? That's quite a lot of question that people ask me. Is once again, I would like to say God was very kind. He gave you 70% more liver, and a healthy liver regenerates. So the liver is divided beautifully into 2 parts, which is the right and the left, with each separate supply. The blood supply, the vein, the artery, the ducts, all of them are quite separate, and then you can divide it into segments later on. So that is how a person can donate a part of his or her liver, which could be even the right or the left, any which ways. So you have to calculate, that is, we do a CT volumetry. Suppose I want to donate it to my husband, say. So I have to first undergo a CT volumetry. In that CT volumetry, we will calculate the total weight. So my liver's weight turns out to be 1500 grams or 1600 grams. Then I have to ensure that I leave 30% back for me. And then the rest of it I can donate. And then the person whom you need to give, it should be at least 0.8%. So for a 10 kg baby, I need to give 80 grams. For a 50 kg, I need to give 400 grams. So that is the minimum that you need to give. There are instances when you can, adjust yourself and go up to 0.7 also, but you have to see the fitness on it. On an average, we like to say 0.8 to 1.
So once I have donated my liver, a part of my liver, in how much time it will regenerate?
Well, a majority of it regenerates within a couple of weeks. Almost nearly 80% of it will regenerate within a couple of weeks.
Simply by ultrasound?
You can?
Detect it simply by ultrasound?
Yes, you can detect it by ultrasound. You can see that the liver is regenerated.
The size is increasing and it regenerates completely.
But you can't get the exact volume by an ultrasound, which is not required. Your functions are going.
We won't do CT only to confirm, but ultrasound can be done.
Yeah.
Now, when we come back to the donor, who can be a donor? Any age group, male, female, grandparents, anybody?
Yeah, it is usually that we like to take between 18 years to 55 years, but sometimes you can, depending on the fitness of a person, can go up to 57, 58, depending.
Why it is 55 years?
Well, generally the age limit is set up to that because you have to look into the fitness for a person to undergo surgery. So the donor, you will be surprised that we spend almost 70,000 rupees on the donor investigations because we've got to be very sure that the heart function, the lung functions and the kidney functions and liver functions, etc.
Why shouldn't it be that up to 55 it is fine, more than 55 it has to be with rigorous investigation?
Well,
why should the law says that no transplant after 55.
No, the law doesn't say anything. I mean, it's for an adult to donate, so it's more than 18, and you decide the fitness and in the elderly, you take livers even 70 years old from a cadaver liver. So it's not that you don't take from cadaver liver, but after that age, what happens is the livers are a little compromised. They get a bit fatty liver. And then, so there is a concern about the quality of the liver with the elderly age,
So
and the surgery that
so
the
when we
patient,
talk about-
ethically it becomes an issue to
When
subject
you,
that
when you
patient.
talk to hepatologists and they talk about fatty liver and they say that you can have normal SGOT, SGPT, and yet you may have a significant non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
Yes.
And how will you judge that this liver is normal when you don't have, when your
Excellent
enzymes are
question.
normal?
Right. So what happens is we do a plain CT scan that is called as LAI. It's very cheap. I mean, it's probably 1,000-1,200. So where you do an LAI that's called as liver attenuation index. Simple plain CT scan. You compare the attenuation index of the liver with the spleen, and that should be +6. But in patients where, or in a person who wants to donate, sorry, not a patient, is if that gets low, close to say less than 6 and 0, then you worry that it is fatty. If it gets very low and you're very keen, then sometimes you need to do a liver biopsy to make sure that it is not fatty.
Is there any role of FibroScan?
The FibroScan is useful for assessing the fibrosis and not much of fat. So what happens is when you have a fatty liver, there are 3 ways that you get divided. First step is just the fatty liver. The second step is
My
fatty
concern
liver
is the
with
donor.
fibrosis.
I want to be only talk about the donor.
Yeah, that's for the
is-
donor I'm saying. So a fatty liver is just the fat which you won't be able to see in the fibroscan. The second stage is the fat with the fibrosis.
Fibrosis.
And
So-
that can go
so
into
that means,
cirrhosis.
are we doing the CT and FibroScan and everybody who is a donor?
No, we
or
just do the CT scan, and if our LAI
If
is good-
FibroScan is available, will it be done? Now it's available in couple of
Yes,
centers.
we do a lot of fibroscans routinely in our things nowadays with data available in adults as well as children. But that's usually done more for assessing the fibrosis, like in patients with hepatitis B, C, seeing the progress, but not for donor workup right now. Any which ways, I wouldn't want to do a...
What do you match when it comes to donor and recipient? What do we match?
First thing is the blood group.
Blood group.
That means either the person who wants to donate should be O or the blood group of the patient, which could be B, A, AB, whatever the patient is. So the blood group should be matching. For the liver, we don't need HLA matching. You need HLA matching more for the kidney, but not for the livers. And besides that, you have to ensure that the liver is not fatty. So that is very important when we do the test. First screen line, we do the basic test like hepatitis B, C, HIV, and the liver functions, kidney functions, thyroid, blood sugars, which is like normal. So you check the basic test which are normal, and then you look for the fatty liver, and if the liver is not fatty, then you go with the volumes and decide how much volume you need, and it needs to be left back.
So,
But on an average, it's a good question that you raise. It's not that everybody who wants to donate can be fit enough to donate. Sometimes
the
there are
liver is not
instances,
available, then what do you do?
right, there are instances where 2 or 3 family members may be rejected because of blood group or fatty liver or obesity, etc. So that is the instance when we were talking about the hurdles. Here you do not have cadaver. Second, there is no nobody
Donor
available
available in the
for
family.
dinner. That is a
you
very
can swap.
sad situation. Then you are pushed only to 2 or 3 situations, which we do is a swap transplant, where your family needs one and my family needs one. So we are donating, but it's like there is no you can say altruistic donation where there is everybody equally benefiting, because I'm giving to your family and your family is giving to me. So it's like same time the transplant is occurring at the same time. So that is called swap. Rarely, not for the purpose of everybody, but yes, in the East and Japanese side and all, they do the blood group incompatible transplants. And even we have now done 3 incompatible liver transplant where the blood group was not matching, but if we wouldn't have done it, the patient would die. So the success rate is a little less instead of the normal life.
That
If I
means you
would
could
give,
take it from the family even if the blood group is not matching.
yes, but there is a lot more into it. It's not so simple for me to give a message that you can. I can just say yes, you can do when you're pushed to a corner, but the expenses will increase because I need to wash away the antibodies from the donor and the recipient before doing it. For example, if I'm A and you giving me B. So I should wash away the anti-B antibody in my body so that I don't fight against the liver that is coming to me. So that requires some sort of a protocol, washing my bodies, and then by plasmapheresis actually.
If you are
and then
made
take
health minister for a day, what law you will change so that cadaveric transplant becomes a reality in our country?
Well, thank you for giving me that opportunity at the outset. And the things that I would do is, it's like the cadaveric donation. It's not like, it's not like one shakalaka boom boom that I can do about it. It is a multi-pronged approach. People like you should come forward, increase the awareness. Education is more important. People, it's not that they don't want to give. They do not have idea about it. So first, education among not only the public, but the doctors. It should be a law, according to me, that no doctor should not ask the family. It is a must for a physician who has a patient who's brain dead to declare that the patient is brain dead. And it is a must for them to approach the family and ask for. How many people, how many doctors you are aware who actually, declare brain death and ask for the family? They don't even do that.
With lots of people where there is a mistrust happening between doctor and the society, and what doctors today wants to do it, they don't want to handle that issue. That's what it is happening, unless it is a law.
So it
the
should
law
be
has
a law.
to come.
It should be
if
a
it
law.
is not a law, with the amount of mistrust occurring with the doctors and the society, doctors are not going to take that into the issue, because doctors are concerned, oh, he is dead, let him go peacefully.
Right.
Let the family go and not create a dispute.
See, Singapore is an extreme extension where if you have not before dying given your desire not to donate, it is assumed we have to take your.
So that law, if comes in India,
opt-out
do you
types.
feel is the answer?
I think that would be a second step. The first step, what we should do is, there should be a law that all doctors have to declare brain death, and it should be a law that all patients who are brain dead, their family has to be approached by the physician to ask for organ donation.
So that's a good discussion. What we have discussed today is that we need a change in the law if we really want to promote cadaveric liver transplant in the country. We have a definition of brain death. Remember, one cadaveric donor can save 50 lives. All of us should pledge and inform our relations that in case something happens to us and we end up into a brain death, heart living situation, that we should be able to donate our organs. There is a flaw that even if you pledge, unless your relations agree, doctors will not take out your organs. Therefore, it is your duty to write it in your will. Inform all your relations that if I die, my life should continue in somebody else's body. That's all for today. We thanks our panelist, Dr. Neelam, and we will come back with some other subject later. Thank you. Good day. Goodbye.